1. The disappearing millennial white male, a lost generation. 2. The FBI did not feel like it had probable cause, but the DOJ said go ahead anyway. Raid Mar-a-Lago with Senator John Kennedy. 3. Robert E. Lee has disappeared, but he was once described as one of the 4 great Americans by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live on a Wednesday, just a few days, a little more than a week away from Christmas, right here at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel and the Will Cain Facebook page. We hope you are ready. It's shipping day. Apparently today is the last day to ship your presents and get them there before Christmas Eve. So if you want a shirt like the ones worn by Tinfoil Pat and Two-A-Days Dan, if you want to be as stylish as Tinfoil Pat, and ladies out there across America have pointed out that might be a good idea for their boyfriend, then you need to go grab a Buffalo Jackson flannel, and you need to ship it today in time for Christmas Eve so that your man can wake up on Christmas looking like Tinfoil Pat. Shipping day. What's up, Tinfoil Pat? What's up, Two-A-Days Dan?
What's happening? I know I'm nice and warm in my Buffalo Jackson.
The one day I don't wear it.
Dude, what are you thinking?
The one day you don't wear it is shipping day. Go get your Buffalo Jackson. You know, it feels like everything is coming to a head. Everything is hitting 100 miles an hour. Just when you think that the country and corporate America, the economy and the United States shifts into down gear for Christmas. There's no sense of relief when it comes to the news cycle, and there's no sense of relief on the to-do list. And amidst that, one of the most viral and important stories of perhaps the last couple of years drops at Compact Magazine. One of the most important stories about an entire generation lost. The generation of white millennial males. Let's get into that with story number 1. Jacob Savage is a Los Angeles-based writer, and writing in Compact Magazine under a headline that reads, "The Lost Generation, the Disappearance of the White Male Writer," he points out that the world is not rooting for you. In fact, it's deliberately rooting against you. With several quotes in this from various industries like academia, television, journalism. He quotes, "The white men shut out of cultural industries didn't surge into other high-status fields." Quote, "The demographic shift reshaped not only who told the stories, but which stories got told." In this article, The Lost Generation, Jacob Savage, a self-described liberal, talks about what has happened starting with the year 2014 and what has going to leave in its wake a generation of disillusioned, unemployed, and radicalized young men. He writes in this article that this isn't a story at all about white men. It's a story about white male millennials in professional America, about those who stayed and those who mostly stayed quiet. The same identity, a decade apart, meant entirely different professional fates. If you were 40 in 2014, born in 1974, beginning your career in the late 90s, you were already established. If you were 30 in 2014, you hit the wall, because the mandates to diversify didn't fall on older white men who in many cases still wield enormous power. They landed on us, the millennial white men. And in this article, Savage shares with the reader some incredible stats. I'm going to share some of these stats with you right now as they span across several industries. How about TV writing? In TV writing, which many of you listening are sitting there going, well, I'm not in TV writing. No, but you consume presumably, television shows and movie. In 2011, 48% of the lower-level writers were white men. By 2024, that number had dropped to 11.9%. From 48% to 11.9%. Think about the decisions and think about the discrimination. Think about the cancellation. Think about the discouragement. Think about the lack of hiring that would be required to reduce a stat from 48% to 11%. And it wasn't just in television writing. It was also in academia. Here's the Harvard Humanities tenure track for professors. Can professors get tenure? Can they become full-time? Can they set themselves up for retirement? In 2014, 39% of those professors at Harvard were white men. By 2023, less than a decade later, 18% were white men, from 39% to 18%. These stats are echoed across industries and across companies in media. Brands like The Atlantic, Vice, BuzzFeed, and Vox all moved from majority male, majority white staff to a far more diverse, far less representative when it comes to white males, staff. Two-A-Days Dan and Tinfoil Pat are both millennial white males. I happen to be Gen X. But I was in media. I was at ESPN about when this timeline started. And this timeline, as Savage points out, begins in 2014. It begins essentially with Ferguson, with the after effects perhaps of Trayvon Martin, the after effects of Barack Obama's "if I had a son, he would have looked like Trayvon Martin," of Michael Brown, "hands up, don't shoot." And then quickly on its heels, Me Too. And what it resulted in was not just a more diverse workplace that more represents the United States of America, but the boxing out of really, honestly, one of the largest constituencies in the United States of America, white men. And it fell specifically on those men that hadn't yet climbed the ladder, those who didn't yet have the power, those who could be passed over for a young black woman, for a young white woman, for anyone who happened to be gay. He points out in this article, every single identity characteristic meant an increased chance of promotion, an increased chance of representation, except for the, in many cases, overt discrimination against white men in this age cohort who hit the employment world at this time. And it's a pretty shocking, not just statistical case study, but real world stories from men, because I think it's easy to go, oh, the poor white man is statistically now underrepresented. Wasn't he overrepresented for decades? That only works when you think of people as a stat. That only works when you think of people as a member of a group. It doesn't work when you think of people as a human being. Because Savage writes in here, this was it. The moment our careers were supposed to take off, we'd put in our time. I've been tutoring SATs and reselling tickets to make ends meet while I wrote, and 5 years seemed par for the course, waiting 5 years to get into a writer's room, to get hired, to have the real job, based on slightly older guys who'd followed the same kind of timeline. But, of course, by 2016, we were already too late. The showrunner, in this case Savage being a TV writer, emailed us back apologetically. I initially thought I might be able to bring you guys on, he wrote. But in the end, it wasn't possible. We met with the executive anyway. He was a Gen X white guy who told us how he loved our pilot. But the writer's room was small, he explained, apologetically. And the higher-level writers were all white men. They couldn't have an all-white male room. Maybe if the show got another season, they'd be able to bring us on. They never did. And Two-A-Days, Dan and Tinfoil Pat, you guys are this demo. You are this guy. You are the white male millennial. I told you that I feel like I experienced it to some extent because those basically overlapped the years that I worked for Disney, that I worked for ESPN. I didn't see this so much in the years that, for example, I worked at CNN, 2010 through 2014 into 2015. But in the years 2015 to 2020, when I worked for Disney, you definitely began to see the rise of not just this term that loses all personality, identity politics, but you begin to see the rise of identity currency. You will be preferred. You will be benefited if you check certain box, and you will be punished, and you will be discriminated if you check other boxes. What we now know is clear is you, Dan, you, Pat. In some ways, before I ask you guys your own personal experience or what you saw, I will tell you this. I've always felt like a late bloomer. I don't think my career has matched my age.
Were you short when you were young?
I wasn't the first guy in middle school, maybe early high school, to hit puberty. I was always a late bloomer. I think that's a fair characterization. Debuting at number 43 on Mediaite's most influential list of 2025.
Let it go.
An up-and-comer, as described by Mediaite, at the age of 50. But in many ways, I think my career is that of a dude who's about 45. Let's hope that it has that similar path. An overnight success, an up-and-comer at age 50. Now, I had felt at times, and part of it's because, Dan, like you mentioned this morning, I started this career when I was about, in my 30s. In my mid-30s, quite honestly. So it's almost like starting over in your mid-30s when I really started in broadcast media. Before that, I'd been an entrepreneur in print media on a very small scale. But that's kind of when I started this career. So I feel like my timeline does overlap. Breaking in, getting on, rising up through the time of discrimination of the lost generation, which is exactly what the career path is for you guys. And what I'm getting at is I feel lucky. I do. I feel lucky for the opportunities that I had. I feel like I earned them, but I also feel lucky because you can get swept up. Everybody can get swept up in a wave, in a movement, and there is no doubt what Savage writes about here in Compact was a wave, was a movement. And it definitely ignored merit. Is that not what you guys have seen? Is that not part of your personal experience? Are you not the lost generation?
I would say, I graduated college in 2010, and I started to see it then. Work-wise, I didn't really see it, but 2014 was my peak dating era. And what I noticed in that, there was a lot of skepticism as like just a white dude. I don't know. I definitely saw a shift. So more in the dating world and in my personal life, and kind of just saying like, you know what, take a back seat a little bit. It's not your time.
Jacob Savage has written the article on the effects of the lost generation in employment, coming soon to Playgirl. The analysis of the lost generation on your dating life by Two-A-Days Dan. How the white millennial male was boxed out of the sexual marketplace. That he had his family building creation set on the back burner. You write this, Dan. You write this, Dan, and it will go viral.
Oh, yeah.
You write, it wasn't just our careers. We were boxed out of the sexual marketplace. The dating wasteland that was there, left for the white male millennial.
In some degree, yes. It was fine. It worked out okay. But, it was definitely noticeable in that arena.
Yeah, I think that the interesting question that's asked by Savage in this article, The Lost Generation, is he also asks, okay, so if you don't care, if the Jamel Hillian response to this is, tear shed for the white male, why don't you ask yourself one more question? Has it gotten better? Meaning, for all of this de-emphasis of merit and re-emphasis on diversity, is television writing better? Are movies better? Are television shows better? Is journalism better? Is academia better? Or does this also mirror the rise of, for example, this story brought to us by Tinfoil Pat? Does it not directly correlate to stories like this out of the New York Post? Teachers union pushes neo-pronouns but claims America is a problem. Does it not mirror exactly the rise and the push of the anti-meritocracy, the rise in insanity in journalism, in television, and in academia? Tinfoil Pat, what is a neo-pronoun?
So that's a great question. Glad you asked. So a neo-pronoun is something like, sorry, I thought we were doing this in the last segment. Something like,
I just told you.
I forgot.
You know, I used to do Fox and Friends Weekend, and Pete and I used to talk about the different guys that would come in and do Fox and Friends Weekend and the weather. And one of the things I would always say about Rick Reichmuth is, I mean, he is a junk ball hitter. He'd stand at the plate, and no matter what you threw him, no matter a curveball, knuckleball, any type of toss, you could toss. You know, the television writers write, you know, a quote-unquote toss. Now you go to Rick, and now I'll go to Rick with the weather. But Pete and I would throw different things at Rick randomly and see how quickly and easily he would both not avoid the topic, address it, and position into his actual job, which is to share with everyone the weather. And we used to joke about, like, there's nothing you could throw at Rick. You couldn't throw the curve, you couldn't throw the sinker, you couldn't throw the slider, you could throw anything and he would hit the ball. He'd hit the ball. Patrick, you are batting 0. I don't know that you've ever hit it. Even if I'm throwing a meatball down the middle, if I throw a meatball down the middle to set you up, on a tee, I place the ball on a tee, and you somehow hit nothing but air.
Sure. I mean, like, a lot of it is, I just got a lot going on in my head. I mean, there's a lot of planning that goes into this. A lot that goes into it. Anyway, but I do have an answer for you. It is a conceptual identity.
Filibuster.
Something like cat, or cat self. So, like, we're going past, yeah, so things like that. Weird. Instead of your basic he, she pronouns, you're going into something different.
So these I've gone from not just the source of comedy on the internet, but they have risen to the levels of teachers' unions pushing for neo-pronouns. I presume to be taught in leafy northeastern colleges.
Hey, I take offense to
where
that.
the smartest amongst us, like two-a-days Dan, are educated in the important issues of tomorrow, like whether or not you identify as a furry or a cat or your latest sexual kink that you're going to mainstream onto the floors of not just academia, but Congress. If you want to see how this happened, if you want to see the direct correlation, if you want to see the loss of quality in America that represents the real decline of meritocracy, you need to know nothing more than read about the lost generation of white millennial males who have found nothing but discouragement and nothing but rejection and nothing but the unemployment line. Let's talk about that and the disappearance of a man who was once described as one of the 4 greatest Americans. Robert E. Lee with Senator John Kennedy on Will Cain Country. Hey, you've heard me talk about Buffalo Jacks in the last few weeks. They make vintage outdoor leather jackets, flannels, wallets. It's a Western rugged brand that actually feels like the real thing. Throughout the last couple of weeks, I've had some different versions of a live read to tell you about Buffalo Jackson. The version in front of me today isn't the one that mentions the man behind Buffalo Jackson, raised in Tennessee, lives in Wyoming, represents the rugged brand that is Buffalo Jackson, but sitting in my control room as we speak is the man behind Buffalo Jackson, is Zan. He's here today in Dallas, Texas, wearing one of his Buffalo Jackson shirts, and I'm making him walk on to set as I do a live read for Buffalo Jackson. What is up, Zan?
I know you're doing this.
Welcome to Will Cain Country. This is the man right here behind the shearling bomber, or one of those puffy leather jackets, which I wore to the Army-Navy game to meet President Trump, and I get a ton of compliments on. Everyone always says, where'd you get it? And the answer is always
Buffalo Jackson.
And so here's the deal. It's not just a stylish item, especially when it comes to one of those jackets. It's an investment. It's something you'll wear for years, maybe even a decade. So you spend the money once, you get the compliments for 10 years. And it's not just guys like me on Fox. You can see it in places like Yellowstone. You know, Kevin Costner. What's cooler than the look of Kevin Costner in Yellowstone, plus country artists and others who wear it as well. And now it's time for you to wear Buffalo Jackson. Here's what you do. Get a good jacket, a really good jacket. Then the compliments come rolling in and say, hey, nice jacket. Where'd you get it? And that's when you say Buffalo Jackson. It's still time to get yourself or somebody that you like a lot a Christmas gift from Buffalo Jackson. Go to Buffalo Jackson, get leather bags. I've got one of those leather bags. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
And wallets, jackets, flannels, built to roam. Check them out, buffalojackson.com. You get the code that Zan has offered us here at Will Cain Country. It's Will10. That's 10% off if you use WILL10. Will10 at buffalojackson.com. We appreciate you, Zan. Thanks, man. Senator John Kennedy coming up on Will Cain Country.
From around the world,
Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel.
to Washington,
I'm Mike Emanuel.
to your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
What it is, welcome to Planet Tyrus, where we bag up the BS and we spread nothing but the truth. This is my show now. So this podcast, we're going to talk a lot about different things, a lot of things about what it is to be a, quote, alpha male and dismissing things like toxic masculinity and all the woke stuff that was kind of dumped on our heads. Like, we need to get back to just being people again, you know, the bro code, wingmans, buddies, friendships. Let's just keep it real.
Listen on Apple, Spotify, or at Planet Tyrus on YouTube.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com.
What is disinflation? How is it different from deflation? Why is deflation so dangerous? And what the hell happened to Robert E. Lee? It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page. We're always here for you on radio and at Spotify or on Apple. I mentioned the Christmas gifts, and today is shipping day. Here's another nice gift for you. How to get this gift in time for Christmas. How do you test negative for stupid? That's the title of the book by Senator John Kennedy. How to test negative for stupid. And you can go get that as a Christmas gift right now. And we are joined by Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Senator,
Will,
by the way,
Will,
do I say it
how
right?
are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Let's do a little Louisiana talk, a little Louisiana pronunciation. Say the name of your state, please.
Louisiana. I don't say Louisiana. Some people do, and right. I don't correct them. This is America, but I say Louisiana.
Okay, so I'm saying it pretty close to right when I say Louisiana.
You're doing fine for a Texas boy. You're doing fine. You know, Texas. I probably told you. I told you this before, Will. I'm proud of Texas. Texas is 5.5 times bigger than Louisiana, but Louisiana is 10.5 times more interesting than Texas.
I just feel like of all, one time I went to Hollywood, Senator, and I sat in an office. You know, I was looking for jobs at one point, and it was like, you know, this was not me being an actor. This is not something like this. It was like, you know, to host some type of, you know, Fear Factor type. Who knows what it was? And I remember this executive saying to me, the most insulting compliment you can ever get is to describe something as interesting. It means they don't really like it at all. It's generic.
I understand.
And if somebody says, that's interesting, it means it's not interesting. So, sorry, Louisiana.
Well, you told me you were going to throw me a meatball right down the middle. I thought that's what it was.
That's. I'm confident you can hit whatever pitch I throw. One more. I think it's still the biggest city. After Katrina, I feel like It could have gone below Baton Rouge, but I still think it's the biggest city. So how do you pronounce the name of the city down there, all the way down there with the biggest French influence? How do you pronounce that city?
I say New Orleans. Now, some people say, particularly folks visiting, I say New Orleans, but I say New Orleans.
What about Nolans?
That'll work. Look, I can teach it round or flat. It doesn't bother me one bit when somebody mispronounces a name in Louisiana. I just tell them to come here, visit, and while you're here, spend money.
Because it's interesting, and he can hit any pitch, no matter what that pitch is, whether or not it's New Orleans, Louisiana. It is Senator John Kennedy, which, by the way, we have a lot to talk about today, and I'd love to talk about some of the things you have mentioned. Let's start serious, Senator. Let's start with the idea of a new reconciliation bill. Let's talk about affordability politics. Let's talk about the economy. You gave an interesting speech recently when you distinguished between what's going on now, which is, as you described it, disinflation. That's the slowing down of Biden-era inflation from 9% to the current 2 to 3%, but distinguishing that from deflation. Very different, and in your description, very dangerous.
Well, let me say first, I want to give credit to the president, to the Republicans in Congress, and to the Federal Reserve for getting inflation down. It wasn't that many years ago, Will, that we had 9% inflation. And that inflation didn't originate in a vat. That inflation was man-made, and that man's name is President Joe Biden. So we started at 9%. We've got it down to 3%. That's the good news. The bad news is that 3% inflation still means prices are going up. Now, what do we do about it? First, we acknowledge the problem. And it is a fact that when many moms and dads lie down to sleep at night and can't, one of the things they're worried about is cost of living. And you can say, well, you shouldn't be worried about it because things are better. Well, they're still worried about it. And my job is to address what people are worried about. What should we do about it? The president can't do everything, okay? Congress needs to do its part. Without depending on a single Democratic vote, we can start passing bills tomorrow to reduce the cost of housing. The legislation's ready to lessen the cost of health care. We have over 200 tax changes that if we made, they would stimulate the economy and increase wages. We do it through what's called reconciliation. That's how we pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. And the One Big Beautiful Bill, by the way, is going to help once it kicks in this year. But since we passed it back in July, we hadn't done anything. And I have been, Senator Thune is our majority leader. I can't just draft a reconciliation bill and bring it to the floor. Under the rules, only the majority leader can bring a bill to the floor. And I have begged Senator Thune, and I'm going to continue to do it. He's my friend. He's a good man, but he needs to do another reconciliation bill.
Let's stick with the economics for just one moment, Senator. You give great voice in making the complicated simple, to making the complicated understandable. You do a great service in describing for us disinflation. That's the slowing down of the rate of inflation. So you're right, and I don't take for granted that many people watching and listening necessarily intuitively know what you're talking about. When under Biden, inflation is at 9%, prices are going up 9% annualized. And when it's at 3%, we're down from the 9%, and that's to be described as disinflation. However, that didn't mean prices went down. That meant the rate of increase went down. We were just going up by 3% now, not going up by 9%. Well, some people, a lot of people, as you point out, feel rough about the economy. So what would they like? They would like prices to actually come down, which we would call deflation. Now, one of my producers, for example, Patrick, yesterday said to me, I love deflation. I said, I don't think you do love deflation. It's incredibly dangerous, and it's as hard as inflation is to control. Historically, deflation is uncontrollable. So talk to me about the dangers then of deflation. And if we can't do that, how do we make prices something that doesn't feel so bad to Americans?
Well, you made excellent point. You got to be careful what you ask for. Deflation can be dangerous. Deflation generally occurs, for example, in a recession. We can reduce prices, not just slow the rate of increase, but we can reduce prices tomorrow. You know how we do it? Go into a recession. What's the consequence of that? 10 or 12% unemployment. So the cure is worse than the disease. In China right now, China's economy sucks. They have a lot of problems. They're experiencing deflation. The people of China they're mad as a murder hornet. I mean, the Communist Party of China is working overtime to keep their people in control. So deflation can be very hurtful, but there is a way to selectively lower prices and reduce that 3% inflation to down to 1% or 0.5%. For example, we spend $3 trillion a year, we, the business community, does, on goods and services. We overregulate business. Those costs are passed on. That's one of the reasons goods and services cost so much. You want to lower the cost of goods and services? Cut regulation by 30%. Those costs will be passed on in lower prices to consumers. But you can't do that. A president can't do that on his own. You got to pass a bill in Congress. And we can't pass a bill doing that in the Senate because of my Democratic colleagues who aren't going to vote for it. So that leaves one option, reconciliation. And I have absolutely no idea why we haven't been working on a second reconciliation bill now since we passed the first one. It just makes no sense to me. If I went to Chuck Schumer tomorrow, Will, and said, Chuck, here's your Christmas gift. You can pass any bill you want to, subject to the Budget Control Act, and you don't need a single Republican vote. All you need are Democratic votes. What do you think he'd do? He'd jump on that like a hobo on a ham sandwich. He'd be all over it. So why aren't we doing it? And I don't understand why.
Well, the other economic principle which would make this much better for the average American is to increase real wages. That you can handle a certain amount of price increases, maybe even 1% to 3%, if everyone's wages are rising commiserately and able to handle those price increases. But that's just not what we've had. It's not what we've had for a vast percentage of Americans. I don't know in front of me, but my guess is it's in the 60 to 80% range of Americans haven't seen real wages increase for really, honestly, quite some time. So inflation hurts even more when your revenue's not coming in as a family. And I don't know what you guys can do in Congress. I think deregulation can help in that as well, because you would hope it would result in job creation and wage growth. But I would love for you to answer your rhetorical question as well. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about in the past, and you've met me with "I don't know," which may be your honest answer. But why won't the Republican Senate work towards another reconciliation bill?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. And I want to say again, Senator Thune is my friend, and I like him. But when I talk to John Strait and the majority leader, let me say it again, only the majority leader can bring a bill to the floor. If I could change one rule in the Senate, that's the one I'd change. I think other senators should be able to bring a bill to the floor. But be that as it may, that's the way the rules are now. I've asked John a number of times, and he keeps saying all options are open. And I respect that. All options have been open for 5 months.
Might it be, Senator? Might it be? And I've had this conversation as recently as earlier this week with Senator Markwayne Mullin about his position on the filibuster moving forward, something that you and I have discussed as well. I've heard your reluctance to do away with the filibuster. Senator Mullin told me that his position has changed, that he is now open to nuking the filibuster, or at least in limited application, doing away with the filibuster. But I've seen the rebuttal some have said about this, in that even if you did away with the filibuster, or how about this, even if you put forward a reconciliation bill, could you get 51 Republicans? Could you get Susan Collins? Could you get Lisa Murkowski? Could you actually get 51 Republicans?
Yeah, we could. We got it on the one big beautiful bill. Now we had to bring J.D. Vance in to break the tie. But just because something's hard or we may fail is no reason not to do it. And look, all a reconciliation bill is, it's a mechanism through which we temporarily get rid of the filibuster, but whatever we pass has to be within the contours of the Budget Control Act. What does that mean in English? That means we can't do anything we want to under reconciliation with just 51 votes, but we can still do a whole lot. For example, we could implement those 200 tax changes that I talked about that will stimulate the economy, that will cause wages to go up. And I think wages are going to go up once the one big beautiful bill, the first reconciliation bill that we passed, kicks in on January 1. But, Will, I talked about this in my book, okay? One of the points I made was these archaic rules in the United States Senate, for example, that only one person can bring a bill to the United States Senate, okay? That just makes no sense to me. The other thing I talked about in the book, and this is an example of one of the criticisms of Congress, the Senate, is that sometimes it takes us weeks, months, years to get nothing done. Now, we've been sitting here for 5 months. I'm not saying we've been doing nothing. We've been working on a budget and confirming the president's nominees, but we haven't been passing bills to lower the cost of living for the American people. And whether you agree with them or not, that's what people are worried about. The cost of housing, the cost of health care. They're tired of having to sell plasma to go to the grocery store. And we may think they're wrong. Things are better than they think. But they still think it. And if you want to win an election and you want to serve your people, you have to respond to people's concerns. The American people aren't stupid. If they tell me cost of living is a problem, I believe them. And we can do something about it instead of saying, well, the president needs to fix this and issue another executive order. There's only so much he can do by executive order.
Hear, hear. Imagine that. American politicians serving the needs and the feelings and the wants of the American people. I want to talk to you about a couple of other items here today as well, Senator Kennedy, some of which I'm not sure they're meatballs across the center of the plate, but I do find them incredibly interesting. This stumbled across all of our attention. This is from, I'm going to guess, roughly 70 years ago. This is President Dwight Eisenhower talking about Robert E. Lee. Watch.
Now, I just want to take a word about this quarrel. I think there are a good many of you people here, both photographers and representatives of the press, have been going into my office for the past 4.5 years, occasionally. No doubt you've noticed that on the walls there are the prints of 4 men. Men that I consider, in my book, are about the 4 top Americans of the past. They are Franklin, Washington, Lincoln, and Lee. And anybody who ever tries to put me in any other relationship with respect to General Lee is mistaken.
Wow.
He's talking about Robert E. Lee, Senator, as one of the 4 greatest Americans in his estimation in the history of this country. Now, why is that something to discuss today? Well, the Robert E. Lee statue has been taken out of the halls of Congress. It's now been replaced. That's what's new today. It's been replaced by someone else to sit in a place of honor. You've seen it. You live in Louisiana. I live in Texas. You know, one of the most famous high schools and high school football programs in the state of Texas has been Midland Lee, renamed Midland Legacy. They're going back to Midland Lee. How do you think we as a country should handle the historical figures of the South?
Well, first, to give some context, and I know you know this, every state is allowed to show one statute, to bring one statute to represent your state in the Capitol. And Virginia for years has had Robert E. Lee, and now they're replacing it with someone else, a young lady. I shouldn't say because I don't remember the details. I just glanced at the article. That is Virginia's right, and I'm not going to criticize Virginia for doing that. My question, though, is what are they going to do with the statue of Robert E. Lee? Are they going to go back and display it in Virginia, or are they going to put it in a warehouse somewhere? And if so, are they going to put it in a warehouse somewhere because General Lee was the commander of forces for the Army in the war between the states? And I get really tired of this implication that somehow today people, both black and white in America, are somehow responsible for what somebody did 100 years ago. I don't think that anyone, black or white, living today is responsible for what anyone did, black or white, 100 years ago. I don't. History changes. Our times change. History doesn't. And I don't believe in judging. I don't believe in judging history and people in history based on the morality or ethics or political correctness of today. I just don't. Robert E. Lee, as President Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, talked about, is an important historical figure. And he was a great general. And I just don't know why anybody should be ashamed of that. I'm not saying that's why Virginia replaced him, but we'll be able to tell a lot by asking, okay, they wanted to change statutes, but what are they going to do with General Lee's statute?
You cannot judge, to your point, historical figures by the modern day morality and ethics. Every single person in history would fail. Barack Obama would fail the modern morality test of the modern day Democrat Party. And you and I and everybody watching and listening will fail the modern day morality test of tomorrow, of 10 years, of 20 years ago. And that does not amount to erasing someone from their presence in history. I know you have a bit of a tight schedule, so I do want to ask you just about two important items. The FBI, reports are that the FBI said they did not have probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago and President Trump's residence under Joe Biden, to which the DOJ said, go anyway. Go anyway. Ignore the lack of probable cause as highlighted by the FBI. Your thoughts, Senator?
Ask me the sick bucket. I mean, I want to find out what happened, and I want to find out who made the decision to go forward when the FBI said you don't have probable cause. I mean, my Democratic friends, I don't put all of them in this bucket, Will, but they talk about the rule of law, and we got to follow the rule of law. Well, and I believe in the rule of law. How come it doesn't apply to the Biden Justice Department? And how come when we bring it up, they say, whoa, you're just vengeance, retribution? No, it's not. If the FBI told, whether it's President Trump or anybody, if the FBI said, look, listen, meathead, you don't have probable cause to conduct a raid, and the DOJ did it anyway, I want to know who made that decision and why they did it anyway. And by the way, they're subject to lawsuit under Section 1983. And that's just common sense. That's what I mean about getting rid of the jackaloons at the Department of Justice, firing them and lifting up the good ones. And I want to know more. If that's true, it's just one more bit of evidence that Judge Garland was out of control.
Well, I can imagine President Trump is also someone that wants to know who, and based upon his past, he might be ready to sue. Just ask the BBC. Last, because it's important, Senator, this is what President Trump posted last night. regarding Venezuela. He wrote on Truth Social, Venezuela is now surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before. What, Senator, as far as you can tell and as far as you know, are we doing? What is the plan in Venezuela?
Well, the first part of the plan, I don't know if it's all of the plan, Will, but the first part of the plan is we're actually doing something in the war on drugs. We went to a hearing yesterday, a briefing, a classified briefing with Marco Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, General Cain. I came away from that hearing understanding that the boat strikes are legal, the boat strikes are effective. We know we're killing drug dealers. The intelligence is impeccable. But that's only, and I think a lot of people are saying, for years we've talked about the war on drugs. Now somebody's doing something about it. And cocaine shipments by sea to the United States are way, way down. You know why? Because the drug cartels can't find anybody to drive the boats. They won't drive the boat. I mean, they don't want to die. Number two, Venezuela and Maduro, who runs Venezuela, they're not just dictatorships. They're criminal organizations. They make their money off drugs and selling illicit oil. And the president has decided to enforce those sanctions and seize their tanker. He's not doing it unless he has a warrant from a federal judge. I am so happy that they're actually doing that. Is the president going to go further? I don't know, Will. But if I were President Maduro, who was everybody voted against him. He used the army, which is helped by Cuba, to maintain power. He ignored democracy. He's a head of a drug cartel. If I were he, I would seriously think about negotiating a surrender. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. And I'm not going to lose any sleep if we restore Venezuela to a democracy. And I've listened to my colleagues go, you're nation building. This is not right. We shouldn't use our military this way. This guy, Maduro, is a thug, and he's selling drugs that are killing our children. And he's denying the good people of Venezuela, which should be one of the most prosperous countries in the world, a democracy. And I say knock him into a new zip code unless he leaves first.
You can still get it in time. It's shipping day. If you want it in your stocking, get How to Test Negative for Stupid. It is by the man you're listening to right now. It is by Senator John Kennedy, and we always appreciate the time. Senator, love hanging out, love talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will. You're a rock star, man.
Thank you so much. Senator John Kennedy, How to Test Negative for Stupid. It's a laudable and honorable goal to win, not just fight, to win the war on drugs. And I hope that is something that the United States pursues with gusto. My humble estimation would be, if you are serious, I don't know that you start, but you don't end with Venezuela. Every single one of us knows that if you want to fight the war on drugs, you're talking about Colombia, you're talking about Mexico. So what is an armada doing off the coast of Venezuela? Like the senator, I'm not opposed. I'm not an isolationist. I'm not even an anti-interventionist. I only care about the answer to one question, and one question only. How does it serve America? I'm not suggesting there's not an answer to that question. It does deserve a follow-up. Well, what is the cost-benefit analysis? But it does need to be explained. The president is set to address the nation tonight. Many suspicions are that it will be about the affordability crisis, that it will be about economics. But I think soon we do need to understand exactly why the largest armada in the history of South America is now marshaled off the coast of Venezuela. Dr. Mark Siegel says, whoa, President Trump. I don't know about this move that we're making when it comes to marijuana, taking it possibly from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. It ain't the marijuana of the hippies from the 60s. That and more when we come back on Will Cain Country.
I'm Dana Perino. This week on Perino on Politics, I am joined by founding partner at Cavalry LLC and co-host of the Ruthless Podcast. It's my friend, Josh Holmes.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcast.com.
Or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Did you hear the news? Now you can. With instant updates from Fox News for Amazon Alexa. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox.
In Fox News.
It's the latest when you need it, on demand, from Fox News and Amazon Alexa. Every weekday, it's your go-to source for staying informed and entertained. The Fox News Primetime Highlights Podcast, offering a curated selection of the most impactful moments of the Ingram Angle, Jesse Waters Primetime, Hannity, and Gutfeld. Listen and follow now so you never miss a moment of the action-packed highlights from these must-watch Fox News Channel shows. Go to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. America's listening to Fox News. From around the world,
Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel.
To Washington.
I'm Mike Emanuel.
To your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Man, you have to look back in time and be willing to admit, was I right or was I wrong? In fact, I would love to implement a new segment here and on the Will Cain Show at the Fox News Channel, where today, by the way, I will be interviewing Jacob Savage from Compact Magazine, who's written about the lost generation of white millennial males, today, 4 o'clock Eastern Time on the Will Cain Show. This is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple. You got to be willing to admit when you're wrong. And we need to have a segment, 2 days. We need to have a segment. Tinfoil Pat, about, fact check, where Will got it right, where Will got it wrong. This one's up for debate. Did I get it wrong? For years on ESPN, I argued for a mid-season tournament in the NBA.
It's your fault?
Why? I'm a soccer fan. Never underestimate the influential power of man who's number 43 in politics, according to Mediaite, Dan. Never underestimate the power of 43. Yes, it's my fault that you have the NBA Cup. Last night, the Knicks beat the Spurs in the NBA Cup. Champions, the New York Knicks. And my question is, does anybody care? Does anybody care? See, I'm a soccer fan, and I got conditioned to this. I got conditioned to multiple trophies, in England, you win the Premier League, you can win the FA Cup, you can win the Carabao Cup, you can win the Champions League over in Europe, and it's fun because it gives you these little, pops in a 10-month athletic schedule. It gives you these little pops, like, ooh, we got the FA Cup semifinals. Let's see, especially when there's not in the Premier League, nor in La Liga or Serie A, any of the European leagues, they don't have a playoff and a championship game. They just play the season. I figure you like that, Patrick. Just play a season, and whoever has the best record is the champion. But then you have these other things that are tournaments, like the FA Cup or the Champions League. And it gives you a little variety, and it doesn't water down any of the trophies. You don't sit there and go, oh, well, you won this trophy, somebody else won that trophy, or you won 3 trophies. It doesn't water it down. It doesn't make it less than in soccer. But the guys that told me I was wrong about the NBA Cup would tell me, A, who cares? B, it could water it down. And right now, I don't think it's watering anything down, but I definitely think it's trending towards who cares. Who cares that the Knicks last night beat the Spurs for the NBA Cup?
I'm a Knicks fan. I don't care. I don't care at all. I mean,
you watched. You were texting us.
I did.
You watched.
I like watching Wembanyama. I watch the Spurs whenever they're on. It's insane.
I literally had no idea until this morning that it happened. He talked about Wembanyama, I didn't know that was not a regular season game. I just assumed
it's weird. It makes no sense for NBA. So the thing is, I was looking it up. Like, why does it work in soccer? Right? Soccer's much more high stakes. There's less scoring. It's more important. With the NBA, it's just another game with tons of scoring. You see these players. There's not much of a difference or a need for it. Soccer is a different animal completely. So it makes a lot more sense for in-season tournaments.
I think it's because it's like in-season tournaments are baked into what soccer is. Soccer developed organically, and you had all of these different offshoots.
There's more prestige, obviously.
It kind of like grew. It was like a tree, two trees growing together, and it kind of grew and molded together. Whereas like this is you're taking something that already exists and you're trying to like shove something in the middle of it.
I think that's fair. The knock on the NBA is that nobody cares, including the players, until the playoffs. Nobody tries. Last night, the Knicks, for winning the NBA Cup, each player got a $500,000 bonus, and every coach as well. A $500,000 bonus. I did not watch. Dan, were they playing hard? Were they trying to win the NBA Cup?
They were. It was getting chippy at the end. They were playing defense, which was surprising. They were really trying. Wemby played longer than he should have because he's been hurt.
He's been hurt.
Well, that's good. Yep, Patrick, that's the thing. He's an alien. He's a space alien. He reinvents the game. He's unstoppable. You've never seen anything like him. Can he stay healthy at 7? Is he 7'6"?
7'4".
Is he 7'6"?
He's listed. Even my wife was like, how does he play like
guard.
that?
It's incredible. It's truly, truly, as a sports fan, things that you see, it is, to your point, Dan, it's something you have to watch. You have to see this guy play basketball. But I think I might have been wrong. I think you got to give it some time to develop. I think your point's well taken, Patrick. It is manufactured. It's not organic, and that makes it less interesting. But you do have to give it a little time. And I don't know, is there a time down the road within the next 5 years where people begin to care about the NBA Cup? Right now, count me as I doubt it.
NBA fans
and Will might have got it wrong.
See, I'm developing a sports league of my own where it's actually built into it. So that's what you have to do. You have to develop your own organic league.
It's just all in-game tournaments the entire season.
Patrick's got all these projects. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Writing a script, starting a comedy show, having a podcast, starting a new sports league, commissioner of Highlight. Like, are you playing the volume game? One of these things are going to pop? You realize that you're a white male millennial.
Yeah, so you can't do anything of these.
Yeah, it's been very detrimental to me. And like when my script didn't get picked up, they said, this is extremely disturbing for a comedy. So we're going to pass. But I like to think it's because I'm a white male.
Yeah. Well, you should. That's what everybody else does. It's not because it wasn't good. It's not because you drive like an asshole. It's because everybody hates you for your identity. It's because you're a white male millennial. Embrace the victimhood, Patrick. You already have, I'm sure. Embrace the victimhood. If not for that fact, you could probably be commissioner of the 5th biggest sports league in America, Highlight. Bring back Highlight. You could be the commissioner of Highlight. Tinfoil Pat. All right. President Trump is any moment now, it seems, set to readdress marijuana and move it from a Schedule 1 possibly to a Schedule 3 drug, opening it up for more testing, medicinal use. This is something that Dr. Mark Siegel of Fox says, no. This is not good. Not good with marijuana. Here's Dr. Siegel.
The key here is, what is a medical use? Because if you're going to go to Schedule 3, you're saying there's proven medical uses, like testosterone replacement is in Schedule 3, and everybody agrees that that has medical uses for replacement. The problem is that a huge study just came out of UCLA, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, looking at 15 years of research, 2,500 studies, and they concluded that there is no absolute evidence that it is useful for pain. It's possible that it's useful for pain, but it's not a proven first-line treatment. It makes anxiety worse most of the time because of the high levels of THC content, which I've written about, and it interrupts sleep. So you can use it to help you get to sleep, but then it also wakes you up in the middle of the night. So without proven medical usage, it really doesn't fit Schedule 3.
So this is fascinating on several levels. So the idea, you're shaking your head, Dan. You don't like what was just said by Dr. Siegel?
I completely disagree. It's all based on personal experience.
Based upon,
yeah.
So based upon your own personal tests,
No, definitely
it helps
me,
you sleep.
Not me. I just mean others' personal experiences.
Right.
Others' personal experiences.
Right. Well, I'm sure the comment section right now on YouTube and Facebook, there is a significant number of people, conservative, self-described conservative as well, who totally disagree with Dr. Siegel.
There are.
Because there are a lot of people who say it helps with various maladies, including pain. The issue is, I don't doubt what he says about this study. Like, I do think, setting aside your own personal experience, which is not to be invalidated, but I do think the line that medicinal marijuana is a valid or good pain coping mechanism has been accepted without much critical thought. It has moved from taboo to edgy to a statement uttered as though it's irrefutable to now hopefully a little bit of critical thought, because I'm not sure that, when you're talking about true medicine, like, how does it work with pain inhibitors? How does it work with neurological, connections? Is it backed up by science? And I know how we all feel about the word science, capital S science. But I think it does deserve its own studies, because here's the thing, like anything else in life, marijuana does come with a cost-benefit analysis. So what I'm talking about on the medicinal side that he's talking about is the benefit. Let's measure the benefit. Is it real? Is it backed up? Right?
It's not a drug.
Has it received all of its proper studies?
It's literally just a plant.
Why do you say it's not a drug?
It's literally just a plant. It should never have been classified even as a drug.
I mean, there's a lot of drugs that are plants, Dan. A lot.
Sure.
I do a lot. Cocaine is a plant. Is it a
drug?
drug?
You got to do a lot of stuff to it to make it get there. But yeah, all you got to do is spark it up on
Ibogaine. Ibogaine is a plant,
not a drug.
And I've talked a lot about Ibogaine and advocated for Ibogaine, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be regulated.
Sure.
It doesn't mean it.
But the war on weed.
I mean, even the proponents of Ibogaine say it should be regulated, that it's not recreational, that it's freaking serious, and it should have serious application. It's not complete banishment we're talking about. It's like, what level of regulation and understanding of this? Because, okay, we're measuring the benefit side of it. And that's all I feel like right there that he's advocating for. Then there is the next part, which is the cost side of it. In Colorado has been an experiment, and I don't think many are looking at Colorado as a successful experiment right now in legalizing marijuana. Full on, recreational, everything. And part of that has to be something he drops in there, which he says THC ain't what it used to be. THC is much higher, and it does have negative effects. Nothing is a wonder drug. I refuse to accept, not alcohol, not nicotine, nothing comes without its cost side, right? Even coffee.
Use responsibly.
Whatever. Everything has a cost side of it. And the higher the THC content goes up, we see the different costs manifest. He talked about anxiety. Alex Berenson has been big on this. He's talked about it on our show. The rise of, or contributing to other issues like whatever. If you have bipolar, is this a good thing to be feeding your bipolar? If you have depression, is this a good thing to be feeding your depression? All of these things. So now back to your point. It's really not all natural as you continue to manipulate it into higher THC contents, right? I mean, if you say, well, cocaine got processed or whatever from
different
seeds.
What do you mean? Making a higher THC content is just propagating different seeds. You're not adding like
genetic modification.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that we talk about with food supplies that we're concerned about.
Right, but I'm just saying.
But we're not concerned about it when it comes to marijuana.
I'm just saying you light it up and it is what it is. You don't have to do extra things to it once it grows and it's done. Like other drugs that do stem from plants. Now, talking about adding fentanyl and things to it, that does happen, and that is a problem, big time.
Fentanyl has true medicinal use. Fentanyl is a thing they use in hospitals.
That's where it started. That's what it's used for.
I don't know.
But you
I
can use
think
anything
this whole
recreationally.
conversation, and I imagine I imagine that the comment section, I think Dr. Siegel talked about ketamine. I think ketamine's Schedule 2. And I'm talking about the rise. That's a story everybody should be talking about.
God,
is the rise
crazy.
of ketamine.
So many, I've heard so many stories.
Yes. Anecdotally, in your life, you will hear a lot of people talking about the usage of ketamine.
Yep.
Same thing. I'm not sitting here being nanny state. I'm saying critical thought, analysis, how do we treat this stuff? I'm also no longer a libertarian. Like, everything and anything you want to do, there's no external effects, you don't hurt other people. Nonsense. And also, I think there's just something like what you endorse in society. Like, even if you're a hypocrite, hypocrisy is not the worst sin. It's not. Hypocrisy is not the worst sin. It's worse to be consistently wrong. It's worse. It is. I see you making a face, Patrick. It's just a turn off. You don't want to tell Patton Oswalt.
That's all.
What?
He thinks it's
hypocrisy is the worst sin? I don't
joking.
turn to Patton Oswalt for my moral guidance.
It's the Norm Macdonald joke about his friend Patton Oswalt, who thinks the worst thing about the Bill Cosby rapes were the hypocrisy. And then Norm says, I think it's something else.
I think it's the rapes.
Yeah.
It's not the hypocrisy. I think it might be the rapes. It's such a good point because we all hate hypocrisy, of course. But same thing with marijuana. Like, we talk about marijuana and we've elevated it into this like thing that, it's all good. Hypocrisy, it's all horrible. Like, if we're ranked, maybe we should do that. Let's come up with a sin ranking, right? Let's rank the sins. And we'll lean on the Bible and our own common sense, and we'll rank the sins. Because right now, the way America has evolved, number one, use of the N-word. The worst thing that could ever happen in society, use of the N-word. And then racism underneath that, by the way.
Where's murder?
Because it isn't racism above the N-word. It's not racism above the N-word. Because if a 14-year-old raps the lyrics to a song with the N-word, nobody's concerned about whether or not he's really racist. They just care that he used the N-word. So that's capital punishment, straight to death row on the N-word, with America. So, you go from that, and then there's racism somewhere in there, but hypocrisy is really high. Murder, come on. 15 to 20 years for murder? And let's consider the circumstances. How was the murderer raised? Was it hardship in his life?
What happened to them?
Yes. Illegal immigration, not a crime. Virtue, not a sin. Virtue. Just ask the Oaklawn Methodist Church down here in Dallas right now, where they have a nativity scene set up, with Jesus behind a chain link fence because, I don't know. I guess he was an illegal immigrant in Egypt when Herod was trying to kill him. I don't know. But, we'll rank the sins according to modern day America. How it is and how it should be. That would be a great top 10 list. Don't you think?
I'll get on it.
Popular American culture. Get on it. Rank the sins. I will suggest that hypocrisy doesn't make the top 10. I can come up with 10 sins bigger than hypocrisy.
Smoking
you ever
weed?
see those viral videos where it's like, you ever see those viral videos with these guys and it'll be like, I can name one quarterback better than Dak Prescott. And the other guy will go, I can name 3. And they go around the horn and the guy goes, I can name 5. And another guy goes, I can name 11. And then somebody will call his bluff and be like, name 11. And then he has to name 11 quarterbacks better than Dak Prescott. Let's do that with sins. I can name X amount of sins worse than hypocrisy, and see how
like
low
societal
we
sins.
actually get it.
Social sins, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about in popular culture, the way we treat them, in the news. Backyard barbecue.
Plagiarism.
We talk.
Where's that rank?
By the way, whatever Louis C.K. did, clearly a top 5 sin. He's out, baby, and you don't get to come back. Louis C.K., capital punishment, whatever he pleasured himself, death penalty. Louis C.K., done. So while we're also producing, I hope you're writing this stuff down, Pat, because I'm spinning pearls here. Me Too.
We are recording.
Let's revisit Me Too. That doesn't mean anything. Just because we're recording, I'll ask you guys to get clips of it, and it doesn't mean anything. Hey. This is basically me speaking into the void, into nothingness. You guys won't remember it.
That hurts so much.
It's just the two of us.
I want to revisit Me Too.
Okay.
I want to revisit Me Too. Let's revisit Me Too. I want a list of everybody that was canceled and whether or not they've been able to come back.
Assault is still bad, by the way.
I would also like to do this on race cancellations. Like, I want to know, the ESPN dude that described Venus Williams' tennis techniques as guerrilla warfare, has he been able to come back?
I do have that written down already.
Or is he?
I have that written down. I'm working on that.
Dan, let's just take a moment real quick. Oh, I thought you had it right now. I thought you were about to tell us where he is.
Oh, God, no.
That tennis player.
You think
that
so?
Tennis announcer. I was about to say, Dan, let's take a moment because I just threw high heat, like a four-seamer, and I thought that he hit it. But he didn't. He's like, I've seen this pitch before, and in the future, when you throw that high heat, I'm going to hit it.
Hit him right in the shoulder.
Wow, he was prepared. So, yeah, I want to do those things in the future. I don't think I hit you with the pitch. I think you stepped out of the batter box.
You got to lean in there.
That's what we try to do, Patrick. We try to lean in to your electric broadcasting. We like to lean in with you as well out there in Alicia. Make sure you jump in. I'm sure you are on marijuana. We love to hear your thoughts out there on YouTube and Facebook. But that's going to do it for us today on Will Cain Country. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Please follow us on Spotify or Apple, and we will see you again next time.